Yeah, we had a full-blown Barbie brawl in the WNBA, and I've got a different take than most everyone else. Sophie Cunningham, J.C. Sheldon, Sophie, role player with the Indiana Fever, J.C. Sheldon, starting at point guard for the Connecticut Sun last night. They had a brawl that spilled into the stands. It looked like the big three with blondes just pulling hair everywhere. It was a Barbie brawl in the WNBA. It ended with 46 seconds left in the fourth quarter, but it actually started in the third quarter when Caitlin Clark and J.C. Sheldon got into it, and Marina Mabry, a guard for the Connecticut Sun and kind of an enforcer and someone who's not remotely scared, bumped Caitlin Clark, and Caitlin Clark fell to the ground. Most people are connecting Sophie Cunningham's takedown of J.C. Sheldon at the end of the game to that. I'm not so sure. I think it played a little bit of a role. There's a history here. I think when Sophie Cunningham injured her ankle originally or re-aggravated her injury and had to miss some games, I think that was in a game that involved the Connecticut Sun and maybe was involved with a collision between her and J.C. Sheldon. There's just a lot of tension. If you watch this game last night that the Fever won by, I believe, 17 points, they were in control most of the game. Caitlin Clark had another excellent game. I think went 4 of 6 from three-point range, finished with around 20 points. They controlled the game pretty much from start to finish, but the bad blood was evident from start to finish. Jay Sheldon, I think, played at Ohio State in the Big Ten Conference alongside of Caitlin Clark. There's a lot of history there. She's been guarding and defending Caitlin Clark for a long time, and there seemed to be some tension between them early in the game. And a lot of that tension is related to, and this is where it's going to get dicey, and y'all know I love Caitlin Clark. I love the WNBA. You know I love Sophie Cunningham, but I got to keep it real. A lot of this is driven by Caitlin Clark's theatrics. She's overly dramatic. She's like LeBron James. And I'm telling you, I've been uncomfortable with her budding friendship and relationship with LeBron James from the get-go. I don't want Caitlin Clark to be anything like LeBron James on the court, but she is. If you watch the Fever games, this was a problem last year. It's a tiny bit less of a problem this year. She's a little less demonstrative. But if you watch Caitlin Clark during any of these WNBA games, she has an ongoing all-game conversation, barking at the referees from start to finish of these games, and it is annoying the opposing players. And it is setting a tone and an example with the Indiana Fever that we're victims, we have a chip on our shoulder, we're being picked on. And so last night, when J.C. Sheldon and her, they were pushing back and forth in the first and second quarters, Jay Sheldon accidentally hit Caitlin Clark in the face. It was accidental. Caitlin Clark flopped around and acted like she got stabbed in the eye to make sure she got the whistle and got the penalty or whatever. To me, she overreacted to accidentally getting slapped in the face. Jay Sheldon kind of walked towards Caitlin Clark, probably in a gesture to apologize, say, I'm sorry for slapping you in the face. Caitlin Clark shoves or pushes the Jay Sheldon away, and that's when Marina Mabry, the guard for the Connecticut Sun, who's not afraid of anybody, walked up on Caitlin Clark and bumped her, and Caitlin Clark, as she is prone to do, flopped to the ground as if she had been tackled by Dick Butkus or Ray Lewis. That's Caitlin Clark. Go back to her days at Iowa when the court got stormed, they got beat, and Caitlin Clark, in my view, ran into a fan and then flopped to the ground and spun around as if she had been shot by a sniper. It was overly dramatic. This is what women do. And Caitlin Clark loves to play up, oh, I'm being abused, oh, I'm being fouled. It sets a tone and it puts a target on her back. The beautiful thing about what happened last night is because this was all mostly blonde Barbies involved. Caitlin Clark, I think the only brunette in this situation. Sophie Cunningham, a blonde Barbie. Jay Sheldon, a blonde Barbie. Marina Mabry, a blonde Barbie. And Caitlin Clark, the brunette. But because this is all white girls, we can actually have a real discussion and talk about what this is really about. And people aren't gonna like this commentary, but it's factual. Some of the black women that have a problem with Caitlin Clark in the WNBA have the same problem that some of the white girls have with Caitlin Clark in the WNBA. They think she's a drama queen. They think she's LeBron James. They think she's protected. They think she flops around and loves to play the victim all the time. Are there girls in the WNBA? A lot of them that have a racial problem with Caitlin Clark? Absolutely. But there's a lot of women in the WNBA that have a problem with Caitlin Clark because Caitlin Clark is a drama queen. LeBron James is the drama king in the NBA. He flops around. He tries to draw fouls constantly. He over-exaggerates anytime he's touched. People don't like that. I love Caitlin Clark. No one in the media spends more time watching the WNBA, supporting Caitlin Clark. It's clear as day, as weird as it is, and I'm embarrassed. Like, I got a borderline crush on Sophie Cunningham. And so I'm all on their side, but I got to call balls and strikes here. This team has taken on the personality of Caitlin Clark, the negative personality. There's a lot of positives to Caitlin Clark's personality, but loving to play the victim, not a positive part. That's the LeBron James, that's the pampered aspect of Caitlin Clark. That's being worshipped by too many people. And the Connecticut Sun, Marina Mabry, J.C. Sheldon, the Connecticut Sun, they wanted to play a physical game with Caitlin Clark. Caitlin Clark played the victim all night. And then there's this other aspect to the WNBA. You're going to like this part if you like my point of view. The other problem is the officiating, the DEI officiating in the WNBA. They don't have the best and brightest officials. What they have is a group of female officials. They've given out all their officiating jobs primarily based on DEI quotas. We want women officials out there. And the problem with women officials are they're not really take charge people. They're not really a voice of authority. These women, particularly Caitlin Clark, are running all over these WNBA officials. Last night, there were 3 referees, all female. Last night, when the fight broke out, or the wrestling, or the pushing and shoving, the hair pulling, the yelling at each other that spilled into the stands, if you listen to the announcer, the color commentator, she was critical of the referees. They wanted, the broadcasters wanted Marina Mabry tossed in the third quarter. I disagree with that. Caitlin Clark made too much of that bump, but they wanted Marina Mabry tossed because set the tone, get this game under control. They're probably in tune with there's bad blood between these two teams, set the tone. But when the thing happened in the fourth quarter and it spilled out underneath the basket into the stands, the broadcaster made a very, very important point. There's no refs trying to break this up. Security is. And she made that point very slyly, very cleverly, to point out the refs aren't really in control of this game. They're not interested in taking control of this game. This is a female broadcaster. She didn't say this explicitly, but she was saying it and may not even have known she was saying it. But what she was saying, these 3 women can't control this game and have no interest in it. And when things got a little physical intense, they ran for cover and relied on male security guards to police the situation and break it up. This is a powder keg that they have in the WNBA. It's no different than when the Indiana Pacers years ago put together that team with Steven Jackson and Ron Artest and a couple other guys on that Indiana Pacer team that had the Malice in the Palace. The Bras, like, man, who let all these loose cannons all on the same team? Who allowed this to exist? It was inevitable. Same thing going on in the WNBA. Group of women players, jealous of each other, catty with each other. There's sexual tension. There's everybody's competing to wear the best outfits coming into the arena and who's got the best IG pictures. Everybody jealous about, oh, Angel Reese is making X amount of dollars. Caitlin Clark's making X amount of dollars. There's all this tension in the air, jealousy in the air. That's, let's keep it real here, commonplace among women. Women are the original crabs in the barrel. And if you don't put some real policing, real officiating in that environment, chaos is going to break loose. And it nearly broke loose last night between the Connecticut Sun and the Indiana Fever. The WNBA hasn't stepped in. Look at the stuff we pointed out and shown you this year that Dejanay Carrington, who plays for the Dallas Wings, and they brought her scissoring lover, Nylisa Smith, onto the team. And Dejanay Carrington is one of the dirtiest players in the WNBA. She's yanking girls down by the hair. She's clawing out eyes. She's hard fouling any and everybody. And it's all mostly going unpoliced. That stuff spreads like wildfire. The Connecticut Sun, J.C. Sheldon, Marina Mayberry, it's spreading. Caitlin Clark and the all-game whining and constant conversation with officials. It's spreading like wildfire, and people are paying attention to it. Opposing players are paying attention to it, and it's causing an elevation in tension. This brawl last night, the Barbie brawl, tip of the iceberg of what potentially will and could happen. Someone is going to get hurt. And because people are only paying attention to the highlights, when Caitlin Clark potentially gets hurt, all anyone will have ever seen are the highlights. They won't understand, how did we get here? How did this happen? Did Caitlin Clark play any role in the fact that she's a target? Has Caitlin Clark's behavior introduced a mindset within the Indiana Fever that is potentially poisonous and dangerous? None of that will be addressed because all anyone will react to are the highlights. Most people will see the two highlights from last night of Caitlin Clark getting slapped across the face and Marina Mayberry bumping her, and then they'll see the Barbie brawl at the end of the game. They'll have no idea that that 20 seconds before Sophie Cunningham did the hard foul on J.C. Sheldon, Sophie Cunningham got knocked to the ground by a Sun player and sort of re-aggravated her ankle injury that had kept her out. That was part of Sophie Cunningham's frustration when she did the hard foul on Sheldon. No one's going to know the context because all anybody takes in of the WNBA are the highlights, and the highlights are out of context. Most people have painted Caitlin Clark as just a pure 100%. She's done nothing wrong. She's just a victim. These mean old black girls are just picking on Caitlin Clark for no reason. There's some that are. And there's certainly that element. And there's certainly jealousy. And Angel Reese and some of the stuff that I've seen her do towards Caitlin Clark, that's pure jealousy and bigotry. But not all of it's that. Caitlin Clark carries herself on the court like the spoiled little suburban girl whose parents are rich and everybody else is poor, and she's better than everybody else. And I love Caitlin Clark. This is correction that I'm offering. It's not incredibly harsh criticism, but someone, Stephanie White, Kathy Engelbert, the commissioner of the WNBA, Stephanie White, the head coach of the Indiana Fever, whoever the president is of the Indiana Fever, someone needs to have a conversation with Caitlin Clark and say, hey, look, we don't want you to be LeBron James. We can't have the face of our league be the whiniest person in the league. Yes, we're going to do our best to clean up some of this animus that circles and is engulfing you. We're going to do that, but we need you to do your part. You're making millions of dollars, to whom much is given. And I know our league is only paying you $150,000 or whatever it is, but because of this league, because of this platform, you're making millions of dollars. We need you to carry yourself like you have the most to lose in this league. You got to be above some of this, and you got to leave our officials alone, and we'll do a better job of getting better officials in here, because this is a two-way street. Caitlin Clark's complaining about the officiating because the officiating is embarrassing. It's DEI. These aren't the most qualified basketball officials on the planet. These are the best XX basketball referees they can find. And unfortunately, they're not as good as the XY referees. They don't command authority the same way a man does. You drop more male officials into the WNBA. It's no different. Do you remember the story from a couple years ago about the high school in Louisiana that was having violence day after day after day, and then a group of dads just started showing up and walking the halls, and the violence went away instantly? Drop some male referees into the WNBA. Watch the tension go down. Watch the order elevate. Watch the violence dissipate, because there are actual people there in authority that are the ultimate authorities. When the players get to wrestling and all, they won't be running and, hey, let's let the male security handle that. They'll actually take control of the game, officiate at a competent level, give Caitlin Clark less of a reason to whine and complain, unless she just wants to be like LeBron James and all these NBA players that, just whine non-stop. So that's my take on the Barbie brawl. You won't hear this anyplace else. Everybody else is going to give you a very surface level, clickbaity explanation of what transpired. But it's a little deeper than that. And you have to be watching and paying attention. And you can't just watch Fever games. You can't just be Caitlin Clark games. You got to watch the whole league to understand what's going on here. Group of women competing. We're in the Governor's Cup right now. I can't believe I'm even know what the Governor's Cup is in the WNBA. But there's a $500,000 payday for the winning team. And I think they split that evenly among the 10 players on the roster. That's real money to these WNBA players. The Indiana Fever qualified for the championship game of the Governor's Cup last night with that victory, and I think the Liberty winning put them in the championship game. The stakes are relatively high. Caitlin Clark has elevated the stakes, and now they're playing this little special set of games that leads to the Governor's Cup. I think that championship game is July 1st, and it's going to be, I believe, the Fever versus the Minnesota Lynx. That's going to be a high-stake game. That's going to be another game that will really need male refereeing, because you want to talk about a culture clash. You're going to have the Indiana Fever Barbie dolls led by Caitlin Clark, Sophie Cunningham, Lexi Hull, and Aaliyah Boston. These very feminine women that play for the Indiana Fever against a bunch of the Minnesota Lynx. If you want a lot of tattoos, A lot of scissoring on that team. They got a great player in Nafise Collier that's married and relatively good girl, but, you know, from that head coach of the Charlotte Reeve to, you know, the rest of that team, a lot of tats. It's going to be a culture clash. It's going to be lesbos against OnlyFans girls, or I don't know what you'd call it, but it's going to be that could get real nasty real quick. There could be some real bad blood there. Need male reps to take charge of that. You need the commissioner to say, "Hey, cut it out." Caitlin quit flopping around trying to be a victim, and y'all quit picking on Caitlin Clark. There's blame to go both ways. There's just not Caitlin Clark is an angel and she can do no wrong, and thank God Sophie Cunningham finally beat up somebody, and Sophie Cunningham knows kung fu or jiu-jitsu, or she's got a black belt and she ain't scared. It's a little deeper than that. Anyway, that's all I wanted to say on that. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you enjoyed today the conversation we released with Chad O. Jackson about Martin Luther King. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.